The Pursuit race week is finally here. I mean, it's 12 completed weeks, and it's also peak week for the marathon. So it's fitting that we have the Hyrox race week this week. We said it before. It's just a little interesting wrinkle in this challenge, but
We wouldn't want it any
yeah.
other way.
So we're recording this on a Tuesday, and before we hit record, we started going through a game plan for how we're going to do the different exercises at the Hyrox, and honestly, it's just exciting because it's just such a unique challenge, and it's like in the fitness space, and I think it's going to be fun more than truly like suffering. I hope we do suffer for the hour because it means we have nothing left, but I definitely am looking forward to just have fun with it.
I think we're definitely going to suffer, but it's the good type of suffering because we've been training for this for 12 weeks now, probably more, probably more. But just the fact that it's the doubles is awesome. Like we're just going to be screaming at each other, pushing each other to keep moving. Our goal is to beat an hour. Like Tristan said, we just kind of went through the rules for each movement and just kind of planning out conservative times for each. We think it's very doable, and we will beat it. We will beat an hour. But yeah, I'm definitely just more so excited than anything. Tristan's had a messed up ankle since college. My psoas is jacked up, but like it's kind of just whatever. Like we're just gonna keep training. We're just gonna keep pushing. If we have to like take a rest day, we will because we're this close to the event. But I don't know. I think our energy and mindsets right now is going to push us through kind of any issues we might be having.
Yeah. So, kind of with that topic of rest day, the unfortunate reality is this past week was the first long run that neither of us did. And it was
It
only
was
12
rough.
miles. And I will say only 12 miles again, just because we're so used to longer distances. And we were both excited for the 12 because it almost felt like a tune up. But the reality is for me, I took a day off. Well, actually, my high last week was the tempo run, which I modified slightly. And instead of doing 3 by 2 miles fast, or no, 2 by 2 miles fast, and then 1 by 1 mile fast twice, so 6 total miles. I just did 6 straight through at a faster than marathon pace. I set a 10K record without even really going for it, but I took the next day off of running, which then made my long run be on Sunday. And then, kind of in talking with Patrick, it just didn't make sense for me to do the long run because then I would have taken Monday off and just would have been peak week would have been messed up. Now, talking to you on Tuesday, I still took Monday off, so I'm still in the same spot, and I should have just ran the 12. But yeah, so a little disheartened that when we're kind of looking at the whole workout plan of the marathon plan that we did, there will be one missing day for me. But again, it's the whole journey. So one day doesn't define us, doesn't define me. So mostly just feeling positive and excited that this is finally a race week and we've built for the last 12 weeks. So it's exciting, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how we do.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat for last week. Once again, had some psoas issues and just being this close to High Rocks and this close to peak week for marathon, it's just definitely not worth risking anything substantial. So instead, I think I got like 3 or 4 miles in on the long run, and I was like, this just is not worth it. So went home, did some yoga, did some stretching, some functional stuff, and I've been doing that every day since Saturday, and it's been helping. But like I said, it's the pain's just kind of inevitable. Like I can kind of worry about a real solution after the races. Right now, I just gotta like do what I can now, ice it, stretch, strengthen it, and just work through it. So none of this is deterring us. Like I said, like you guys can probably tell just from our facial expressions, like we're way more jacked up just because
Yeah.
it's a race week than usual. So it's all really good. Like even like Tristan said, last week was definitely like a down week for us, but it's not affecting us in the slightest. My low for last week was definitely missing and having to cut short the long run. My high was one of my, I can't remember which day it was, but one of my like easy runs When my psoas was kind of hurting, it was 6 miles, but after like 2 miles, just kind of went numb and just went into like a pace of like 8:15 to 8:20, just kind of cruising. Like it felt perfect. It was 70 degrees out. My body was moving well. Mind was in a good spot. So I think the key for me, or one of the keys, is to get into that mind state. And I think that just comes with finding a good pace and being comfortable with how I'm running uh, come marathon and Hyrox this weekend.
Yeah, and then kind of for me, you brought up my ankle, and I'm not going to sit here and say I've been hindered by an ankle hindered by an ankle issue during this prep, but the reality is what happens for me. I talked about it before. After a long run, that next day, like I can't run a lot of times. I can hardly walk, whereas my right side of my body like feels completely normal, and it really bums me out because I know like physically I could do it, with the exception of like what happens to my left ankle, left Achilles. But I spent a lot of time. I actually went to a local run shop in Charlottesville and uh, just tried on probably six, seven, eight different pairs of shoes, and we kept like I was talking to people, and they were giving me suggestions of like, hey, maybe you want a more structured shoe as opposed to just straight cushion, and that's kind of counterintuitive to what I've just done over the last 3 years because I think that more cushion will help me, like it will help soften the blow against my Achilles. But this is not something I'm going to switch over the coming 4 weeks. I already have my race day shoe picked out. It's going to be the same shoe I wore for my first marathon. And like, I'm not going to change my daily shoe with 4 weeks to go, but it's just something like Patrick talked about long term fixes. Like, this is maybe something that I'm going to look into further when this prep cycle is done. Um, and yeah, just hearing you talk about clipping miles at like an 8:15 pace and 70 degrees, a big worry of mine, and it's really been a big worry of mine this whole time, is the differences in how I run in cold weather and being used to colder weather than what is currently down in Dallas. And I'm scared of the fact that race day may be 70 degrees and sunny. And that is a beautiful day, but when I'm used to running in the 30s and 40s, that's a big difference for my body. And it's funny that yeah, I looked before we hopped on the call, which is funny enough. But yeah, I'm just hoping we wake up race day in a couple weeks, middle of December. It's in the 40s. I love the 30s, and then like it can heat up during the race, but I don't want a race day temperature of 70 degrees. But and that's why it's funny that the 10K I ran this past week, it was 42 degrees and raining, and like it's a run. I had a shirt, I had a long sleeve on, and like I never run with a shirt on, and still set a PR. And that I think was really just because of the temperature and just the mindset I was in. And uh, yeah, I mean, I guess that what I'm trying to say is I'm just hopeful that temperature is not something I'm worried about come race day. But that's
Yeah,
far in the future, so not going to worry about it now. But
yeah. And jumping back briefly to these like kind of pre injuries, I guess, or like trying to just fight through some pain. Like I forget that Tristan has been like literally dealing with a messed up ankle since college. So like when I was like on runs, even on my run yesterday, like when the psoas was acting up after like literally an hour of strength stuff in yoga, I was like, this motherfucker is has been doing this for years. So like just let it go numb. Like you can fix it later and just like keep going. Like there's nothing you can do about it now. Like you're this close to your goals, so just put a band-aid on it and keep moving forward.
yeah, but I mean, like I'd be lying if I said it was a daily hindrance for me currently. Like first year in college, I would wake up and walk with a limp, and I played my whole freshman year of football like not able to push off my left foot. Now
It's
I
nuts.
realized I needed a surgery at the end of that season, and then that surgery helped me a lot. But yeah, now it's mostly just like scar tissue, and it like my ankle is essentially damaged goods, is what my orthopedic surgeon told me a couple months ago. Because I went in and I was like, hey, I'm a runner now. I've run a marathon. It doesn't affect me when I run. It's just the day after. And he's like, so you ran a marathon? Like you don't have issues. And I was hoping he'd give me some quick fix of, maybe your calf is weak and it pulls on your Achilles, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't really have those answers. But I do think that just if I focus more on recovery, even just strengthening the muscles in my feet, the balance of my left foot, like that's going to be a big focus of mine. Really, like after this prep, 100%. But I should start doing the stuff in the weeks leading up to it because it can't hurt me. So yeah, it's just interesting. Like we've talked this whole time like about the prep, but it's not just a 16-week prep. It's the infinite game. So it's stuff like this, like doing habits to help us recover better or like make sure that we're healthy. That's what will keep us in the game, which is we want to stay in this game. So it's like the best availability is being available. So yeah, it's just a long journey of that, and it's definitely a focus of mine. Like I've done hardly any yoga this whole time, but I know how good that is for my whole body, and it's like that's just been a lack of focus on my part. So
Yeah, it's definitely a longevity thing for me, obviously. But I will say this SOAS situation has taught me a lot of how important it is to strengthen all of these areas, all of these weak points, and more so, I'd say in most cases than just stretching them. Because like you can overstretch, you can make it worse. But people say, Blake's calling me. People say, and I was just doing research on the psoas, like the more important thing is to strengthen it and strengthen the muscles around it. So you're kind of fortifying it and preventing future injuries. So, I mean, I have a pre-run psoas routine. I have post-run now, and it's helping a lot.
yeah, and similarly, it's in the last marathon prep I was doing that I failed after roughly 10 weeks, but started having pain in my arch at like week 8. I was looking into like arch issues because I thought I was getting plantar fasciitis, but it's and like a lot of the stuff was telling me to stretch it, so flex my toes backwards. But then I was seeing competing stuff like, no, you want to clench your toes because that's what helps strengthen that muscle. And so just sitting there watching TV or doing whatever, I would start to just essentially clench my toes, and I haven't had an issue this whole prep. So it's sometimes just like going against what's considered the norm can definitely help your body out. And I don't know, it's just this is so like endurance athletics. It just shows how the body is one resilient, but two, it's just a huge chain. Where if you're having an issue in your foot, it's not necessarily just your foot. You may have tight calves and it's like pulling on your whole foot. So it's like strengthen, stretch, do everything for the whole leg, and then like your problems will hopefully go away. So it's just
Everything's
interesting.
connected.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I'm I don't know hardly anything about that, but it's I've definitely learned a lot just like through running, through dealing with different aches and pains and like we have friends that are getting into running and they text us, they call us, and they say, "Yeah, we have tight calves. Like, what do we do?" And I always think it's not just a calf issue. Like, you're tight everywhere, so you just need to stretch overall, and hopefully it just goes away with time. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, we've talked before. This is peak week. I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, but I am mostly excited just because of the Hyrox this weekend. But I mean, after 18 miles, I had a sense of confidence. After this week, I definitely will feel good because I want this run to go well. And assuming it does go well, like I will have way more confidence than I did at this point in the last marathon prep because the furthest I ran in the last marathon prep was 18 miles. So I think we've decided we're definitely going to go above 20. I personally think 22 is a good sweet spot, but we, I guess
We'll
we'll
have some
decide on
later
Sunday. Yeah,
discussions.
well, but regardless, I think that we're gonna go through this run together, and uh, it's hopefully just going to give us a lot of confidence for what's to come in mid-December when we toe that line.
Yeah,
So I'm excited.
me too. Yeah, just excited all in all, happy, grateful, proud of us for doing this so far, and now it's finally like coming to fruition, which is super cool.
Yeah. So that's all I got. Uh,
Me too.
I'm just we're just excited, stream of consciousness here, and it's cool that we said it last week, but it's cool that one part of this journey is getting close to wrapping up, and that the next time you'll hear from us, we'll have good news that broke an hour at Hyrox and had a good long run. Going to manifest both those things, and then we'll just be on to the next thing, which will be the Dallas Marathon, and then like we talked before, just a continuous cycle of like what's next. So then after the Dallas Marathon, it's who knows what else, but we're definitely just closing in on our goals. So another week done, week 13, peak week, race week is here. Let's
The
go.
pursuit.